We're moving on to our next panel, and the Minister has alluded to it. We're going to talk about delivering the National Development Plan and the skills and the personnel and the shortages that are challenging. On the panel discussion we have to discuss the theme of recruitment, upskilling and modernising the construction workforce. I have nearest to me Dr. Mary Liz Trant, Director of the National Apprentice Office, which I think we'll get an explainer on how it varies from SOLAS and so on. Beside her is Derek Byrne, General Manager of the not-for-profit organisation Way to Work Ireland. We're going to hear from Derek how it was founded, how it works, and I think you'll find it really is required. It's in conjunction with TUSLA, and it's for people that really have come from very tough childhood circumstances in care and so on, and giving them a path through you into the construction industry and a career. Then we have the hard man himself, John O'Shaughnessy, Managing Director of Clancy, Clancy Construction, of course, a household name. But John has been very much within CIF at the forefront of the whole apprenticeship debate. He earwigged the Minister and fed me with questions to ask him, and certainly he is doing a great job on your behalf, I might say, in making sure that the shape of the reformed apprenticeship structure is really best suited to your needs. And last, but by no means least, Joanne Cluxton, HR Director of Mercury, and I feel very sorry for Joanne, not because she has to deal as HR Director with 3,000 employees, but her boss has just rocked into the building to see how she will perform. Tom introduced her to me. Let's start with you, Mary Liz, and explain what exactly is this pre-2016, all the different apprenticeships, all the different wet trades, electrical, plumbing, and all that kind of thing, and what you're trying to achieve through the National Apprenticeship Office. Like we've had Andrew Brownlee of SOLAS at this conference. Why change it?
So it's very much about bringing apprenticeship into the next phase of growth. There's a target to have 10,000 registrations at least by 2025 per year, where last year we had a record. We were about 8,500. We need to get up and even advance that. And I suppose the big objective, I suppose, was in setting up the office was to support that growth and enable that kind of expansion. 5 years ago, Ivan, we had just 25 apprenticeships. Now we've got 66. So we've expanded enormously. We've also got nearly 25,000 apprentices training in the country at the moment, over 8,500 employers using apprenticeship. But all those numbers need to grow, and government is investing very significantly.
And all of that's for construction?
Not all for construction. Over half of that actually is for construction. But there's all of the related areas as well. For instance, we have finance apprenticeships. A lot of the companies in the room here today have got finance functions. They're using accounting technician apprenticeships, other finance, insurance apprentices as well. So there's a huge infrastructure there and support for using apprenticeship as a talent pipeline and growing that. And that's the fundamental goal of setting up the new office.
But, I mean, is this just to save money? Because, you know, we heard arguments earlier that in the reform of this, that under SOLAS costings, the off-the-job training could be as high as €22,000 per apprentice. Can you give a guarantee? Like the Minister was into dialogue and all that, which, you know, slips by me. Are you going to guarantee that there'll be the same level of funding?
Well, my role is to implement this new action plan and the office and so on. The brief that I have and the team has is to grow and expand the system and build, not to reduce. So as all of this expands, certainly my expectation is that investment is going to increase. Year on year, over the last 6 years, the investment has gone up. It was over 200 million this year, and it's going to be in excess. It'll be probably 230, 240 million next year. And as the system grows, it has to happen because As I mentioned, 25,000 apprentices in training and support by government for all of the off-the-job. There is a commitment there, and that is going to continue.
So and we have didn't really answer my question.
Well, I suppose I can't give.
No, and I know you don't decide the budget, and I do understand, and the minister alluded to how you've widened it out: scaffolding, wind turbine technician, roofing, cladding, advanced quantity surveyor. So, like, I'm not throwing the baby and the bathwater out here, but you can see how, if there's more numbers and if there's not a pro rata increase in the number of money allocated, how and if there's a big demand, how actually, it mightn't be that attractive for people if the level of subsidy for off-the-job training is reduced.
Well, the minister just spoke a few minutes ago about the amount of investment through the National Development Plan. Every signal has been that commitment in upskilling and training is going to continue because there's an awareness and understanding that people and skills are critical. We need it for Housing for All, we need it for climate action, and all of the targets are there to increase the numbers. Absolutely. Yeah. So it's not going to happen unless we invest in people. And I am absolutely convinced by the work I'm doing and the time I've spent that there is a genuine commitment by government to do that.
And you were just set up since January of this year.
That's right.
So, you're still in the honeymoon phase. I'll be harder on you next year. But, John, you've heard, obviously, this is a spiralling cost to the state. You met privately with the minister. You've spoken to Mary Liz. What's your sense of it on behalf of the CIF membership?
Yeah, I suppose before today, we would have had a concern about the word that was being used in migration of the existing apprenticeships, the 25 apprenticeships, across into the new consortium-led apprenticeships, and that the new model would be the consortium-led apprenticeship. And that was kind of what we were sensing. We met with the minister this morning, and he made it absolutely clear that's not the case. What he did make clear was there will be one apprenticeship model, and that model yet to be decided. And he mentioned into the room here when he spoke himself, it would be a mix of what's good in the existing apprenticeship and what's good in the consortium-led apprenticeship. So we get a lot of comfort from that. And he used another word which Mr. McGrath also used, which I'm delighted to hear, partnership and collaboration. So we're just talking about industry. They were delighted to talk to us this morning, and Joanne and Dermot was there to hear the practitioners in the industry, what we have to say and how it actually really works on the ground.
What are your worst case fears?
Worst case fears would be that the consortium-led apprenticeship would be the new model in its current format, and the off-the-job phase training would be down to the employer, basically, not SOLAS as it currently is. On the consortium-led apprenticeship, you get 2,000 of grant per year per apprenticeship, and therefore, if it was a 4-year apprenticeship, it's 8,000 at most. 2-year apprenticeship is 4. But when we done analysis, say take electrical apprenticeship, it's 22,000. SOLAS pays for the off-job phase versus 8. And in fairness to the electrical and mechanical contractors, if you look at the stats in apprenticeships in Ireland at the moment, electrical is about 9,000 electrical apprenticeships of the 25,000 that Mary spoke about. And that's a huge impact on those businesses. I actually think it would be a disaster for them if that happened, because the business model they have relies a lot on apprenticeships and bringing apprenticeships through the system. And if that model is to change, I think it would be detrimental really to those apprenticeships and maybe the businesses themselves.
Joanne, Mercury have more than 400 apprentices. What's your interpretation or concern of the way this reform could pan out for your company?
Yeah, I echo what John has said there. I think it'll have a massive effect. So, we have a large percentage of electrical and mechanical apprentices. The cost is probably the biggest part here, where we will, obviously have to cover the whole duration. And unfortunately now, the other thing with delays because of COVID, an apprenticeship that was previously a 4-year programme is now a 6-year programme. So those costs are going to continue to add longer than a 4-year programme. So that would be my biggest fear with our apprentices.
And are you reassured by what Mary Liz and the Minister have said? Or what?
Yeah, I think the meeting this morning was really productive. Probably went in a bit, very afraid of this consortium-led, but I've left it that I think over the, it's not going to just click of a switch and change from a certain date. There is that collaboration over the next couple of years. And the Minister has given us the indication that we will be involved in that journey to develop something that works right for the employers, that we're part of it, so that they know that ultimately if we don't have our say in it, it won't work, it'll fail, and they don't want that.
Okay. The imbalance between 9,000 electrical apprentices and only 2,300 doing carpentry, joinery, and a shortage in wet trades. What are you doing about that, Mary Liz?
So there are a number of reviews underway, and the review of the so-called wet trade apprenticeships have started, plastering and bricklaying and painting and decorating as well. And as mentioned by Joanne and John, fundamentally apprenticeship is industry-led. So it's about developing programs that work for employers, work for businesses. So those reviews are going to look at the duration of the apprenticeship, the content, access. We want a lot more women in. We've got of 25,000 apprentices, we've got about 2% are women. And construction, there's a big challenge there, and everybody knows that, and a lot of work being done by CIF to advance that. Those reviews, those curriculum reviews, the objective is, and working very closely with Dermot and colleagues in CIF and other employers, is to make sure that when they're reviewed, they will meet the need of employers and they will help increase the numbers very significantly to meet the demand that's there now. And the demand, everybody knows, it's very difficult to get people, even domestically, to do this work. So we need to get into a much better shape on that, and apprenticeship has a very real role to play.
So it seems the imbalance is caused by the industry rather than the National Apprenticeship Office.
Come the National Apprenticeship Office, actually, when that was established earlier this year. So we're very much in favour of it. It actually brings apprenticeship at a national level centre of attention. But going back to the numbers... and
the distortion between the different trades.
If we just take where the big problem is, it's really wet trades in particular. So we've got blocklaying, plastering, decorating and tiling. And again, we spoke to the Minister about this morning. And I know there's a review currently going on. What we feel is that of those four trades I just mentioned, plastering, could seriously be a 2-year apprenticeship at most. It doesn't need to be any more than that. The others could be a lesser period, or traineeships, which are very, very successful, and some of that's going on in Mount Lucas as well. And the blocklaying and bricklaying, again, that probably will remain a 4...
Do you think the curriculum needs to be reformed?
Absolutely, it has to be. I mean, there has been no tiling apprenticeship for the last 10 years in Ireland. None. But there's loads of tiling going on.
Yeah.
So what we actually need to do is upskill the people that are doing the tiling, and be that a traineeship or some form of a very short apprenticeship. Okay. But we certainly need to have training in there so that skill set is brought in.
Are Mercury more interested in the electrical end of things, or would you like to see more in the wet trades?
We'd like to see, as John said, I think traineeships. I think we might like to see apprenticeships in all areas. We're not hiring tilers and things like that, but certainly we support to try and reform it and look at, what are the issues that we're not getting. As I said, 10 years, we haven't had any registered apprentices. What can we do to change that? And, it also brings it out to when we're going out to the schools to show the variety of options available, that it's not just an electrical for an apprenticeship, but you can also go down other routes to do traineeship, to do whatever it is.
Okay, Derek, tell us about Way to Work Ireland. How did it come about? Who's involved, and how does it work?
Way to Work Ireland came about, I suppose I worked in the private care sector for a number of years and realised the majority of the young people I worked with, when we got them to 16, 17, 18, there was no real opportunities for them. I approached a couple of businessmen, friends of mine who I knew, who helped me develop it in 2019 in partnership with TUSLA, the Child and Family Agency. We're a non-for-profit organisation, but fully funded by TUSLA. Excuse me. So we don't look for donations, we don't look for old laptops or mobile phones. The only thing we look to do is engage with companies who are in construction and different sectors and give somebody from, let's say, disadvantaged background an opportunity in their company. We started off normally with apprenticeships, but we do apprenticeships now, general operative roles, some work experience, internships, wherever normally the young person will come to us and request ourselves to advocate for them.
And when was this set up, and is it nationwide?
2019. So at the minute, we're in Leinster, Munster and Connacht. The majority of the companies we work with are in the construction area. So we have several guys with Mercury, Designer Group, Kirby, Jones. We're official partners with John Sisk & Sons. We also work with the aerospace industry.
What age group are we talking about? Like, you're no longer in a care home at 18, are you? You're no longer considered a child?
No, as soon as the day you hit 18, you're an adult, and you move from what's known as residential or foster care into aftercare. So essentially, you're out on your own, and you've a little bit of support maybe on the phone and with the aftercare teams and so on. When we, at Way to Work, when we're able to get a young person an apprenticeship, they receive €300 additionally every week off Tuesday tax-free, which helps them then maybe, access student accommodation, or if they're lucky enough to get their own place and so on. So them extra supports are put in straight away to keep them in the apprenticeship. Our job is to let them know that the HR director won't contact them through TikTok, that they have to turn on their Gmail notifications, to make sure that they have their leave card topped up every week. They know who to contact if they're late. Generally, everything your mother and father would teach you, who to ring in if you're sick and so on and so forth.
And what's your relationship with CIF?
Very good. I met Tom in 2019, and he introduced me to a panel with Dermot Kearney, Dave Tracy, all the rest of the guys, and we have a really good relationship with from the CIF. We've been put out to many of the companies.
What sort of numbers are you dealing with?
Small numbers at the minute. Tuesday don't have that many young people. 6,000 young people in care, but that's from 0 months up to 18, and then aftercare is different. We're now at the minute trying to get out into the desk guilds in and around Blanchardstown, Ballymun, Santry, and I suppose talk to the young people about what opportunities are available, mainly in the construction. The majority of the positions that we can access is in the construction area.
So how big could it grow?
I think it can get a lot bigger than it is.
It's about 40 or 50 at the moment.
We've about 40 or 50 positions this year, yeah, but we've small numbers. We've only had like 150. We do training as well as that. We've 2 programs. Designer Group, for instance, have a bespoke training, introduction to construction course for us, which is run over 5 days. And then we also pay for training across the country for young people who need forklifts, safe pass, manual handling, whatever, to get them to start and in the gate.
Okay, and that brings us on to what the Minister, I thought, was most enthusiastic about this morning, which was this equalisation of parents' expectations between a university and some arts degree that's not worth anything, and a proper apprenticeship or trade, and so on. And he spoke about this almost leading a culture change, and schools and so on. So maybe I'd ask you, what is the potential of this? What are the things that need to change for women and for others to make, because we no doubt, in terms of supply and demand of job opportunities, not too many people need, a degree in theology or Greek languages or whatever, but there's plenty of sparks needed, you know what I mean? So how do you get this across? Is it to do with the snobbishness of parents and their expectations, or how do we change this? Because, Germany seems to be, for decades, a long way ahead of us on this, and what do we need to do now, or what are we doing?
Well, just last month, there were 3 big events on in the country. There was World Skills Ireland in the RDS for 3 days, there was Higher Options, and there was ploughing. Combined, and there was a big apprenticeship stand there, non-stop. One day we had 8 people on and we just couldn't keep it going in Higher Options. Our sense is that there's already a big shift happening. The Minister talked about apprenticeship options going on the CAO platform for the first time, probably,
Would that make a difference?
Absolutely, because around the kitchen table and in schools, guidance counsellors classes, when it's like, let's look at the CAO platform, straight away, parents and young people who are thinking about their options are looking at higher options, further education, and apprenticeship options. It's all there, all the choices there, and that's the first time that's happened. It's a start. It doesn't solve it completely, but it means that it gets all of the opportunities on the table. The other big message we're really encouraging is apprenticeship is just a way of getting your qualification. That's all it is. It's about working on the job. You get a major qualification, you can get a degree. We actually have one PhD apprenticeship, senior engineers taking the apprenticeship route. That message, I suppose, we really need to get that out there.
There's a pathway if you want more academic, same in agriculture. You can go to agriculture college, but you can actually end up in a TU or whatever. Yeah.
Absolutely, and we've had a lot of, as well, senior and a lot of people in this room who probably came through the apprenticeship route. When people talk about the fact that they started as apprentices and got a trade and were on their tools and then moved to be senior managers and even leaders of companies, that's incredibly powerful as a message. We were out in Irish Rail. Jim Mead, the CEO of Irish Rail, started as a fitter. He's now the CEO of Irish Rail. He spoke, he had the room completely silent listening to him, including apprentices, about that experience and that opportunity. And it's a great message, I suppose, to promote. So I think it's changing. Ireland's not any different to the UK, to America, to other places where academic third level managed to somehow get this kind of, the Holy Grail, view. It's changing now, and I think like a lot of other countries, Ireland's starting to come back to the understanding that skills are really important. The way you get your skills and your qualifications doesn't matter so much.
But is there a problem that some secondary schools don't teach woodwork or don't teach, it was the old tech or vocational school. Is the syllabus at post-primary level open to it?
Certainly certain schools, and particularly girls' schools, like I met a lot of young women at both World Skills Ireland and Higher Options, and they said to me, we're not being told about apprenticeship opportunities and we don't have a chance to try out certain practical skills. And that is a challenge. And I think that's where the second level system has to step up and start looking at that. And that will happen. Guidance counsellors are hugely important.
Yeah, I was going to mention
Joanne mentioned that work that goes on.
Tell us about what you're doing, because your first port of call is a guidance counsellor who's, offering a specialist advice in this area. Is CIF doing enough, John?
We have a careers construction campaign that we started a number of years ago, and all the members here, the majority of members here, put their hand in their pocket to help fund that campaign. And through Tom Parlin and the president of CIF, Frank, and the previous president, Pat Lucy, we got the government to match any funds that we raised for our careers construction campaign. And over the last 2 years, we ran a schools competition where students were asked to give a particular project, and then they presented that project and got prizes. And that was one way of us getting into second level and showing them what kind of career paths were in construction. This year, we've actually changed tact, and this year we're actually doing something different. So this year, the CIF are offering schools free Safe Pass. So the students will be given Safe Pass, which is what gets you onto a building site. And it's free of charge, paid for by the CIF and Solace, in fairness again, through the government. And to date, we've actually had 700 students signed up for that Safe Pass course, which is amazing. So we're booked out up until the end of this year. But what I would say to the rest of the room here is, and to contractors, house builders and subcontractors, is to get involved in this, contact your schools. And we're running out of money as well. So if you want to sponsor a school to, say, train 20 students to do Safe Pass, we're encouraging that. And we're encouraging contractors, house builders and subcontractors to engage with the schools, go in and meet the students and talk to them. And we actually think this is an excellent way of getting into second level, getting them to do Safe Pass, and then they can actually go out onto site for 10 days. They're going to have their Safe Pass card, and they'll see what jobs are available in the industry, be it apprenticeships, quantity surveyors, engineers, and all the other careers choice in the industry, like IT, BIM, and all the other stuff we spoke about. So we're trying to change, I think the Minister said himself, the perception of the construction industry hasn't been great, and we're trying to change that. Part of this campaign, we're also doing something I know nothing about, which is TikTok. So we're targeting the students through TikTok, and don't ask me what it is or how it works, but somebody does, and seemingly it does work. So
I'd say Joanne. This career culture change.
Yeah, 100%. And there's definitely a gap with the schools and the awareness, and we've done great inroads in it, but we need to keep it knocking on the door. I went to a girls' school, and in the 5 years I was there was no mention of any sort of construction career, and that's still there. We ring girls' schools about coming out to visit, and they actually say, no, we don't do any construction studies, so they don't see a road there. So we need to be persistent with the message, the same message from all of us here. I think in the last 2 years we've hired 15 female apprentices, which seems small, over 400, but we hadn't hired any female apprentices in 15 years. And what we're doing with them is we're asking them what school they went to and go out to their schools. So just starting to break down those barriers. And we, getting those events, I think the one in the RDS, the World Skills Live, was excellent. But the other thing is the parents as well. We can get in at the career guidance and they'll give all the leaflets and all the information around apprenticeships. But they're going to go home and sit at the kitchen table, as we said, and chat about it. We actually went to a good event there a couple of weeks ago where the school did it in the evening, a careers event for the students, which forced the parents to come along to it. So, more of that would be great as well, to try and encourage the parent to find out more about the opportunities.
All right, there's a poll at the moment. Are you actively trying to build a more diverse workforce? Now, some questions, please respond to that. Are the rates of pay for apprentices sufficient to attract young people into trades? Anyone can take these, Mary-Liz?
Quite a lot of the construction-related apprenticeships, there's pay agreements in place. So obviously an employer pays salary and then the government pays off the job, and they're set. I suppose the thing that I was just talking to somebody at lunchtime, if you're an apprentice, you get paid. You earn while you're learning. If you're a student, you get nothing. So there's straight away,
someone asked, how can apprentices afford to live on their current wage in Dublin?
Yeah, so everybody, anybody who's trying to live in Dublin is finding a challenge at the moment.
Student as well.
Yeah, but and it is challenging. But I suppose that is the big difference between apprenticeship and other kinds of study. Where apprentices do get a salary, which is.
Okay. I want to get on to upskilling and the transfer of tech-related skills, like John and his TikTok. The question here, skills needed in the construction sector are changing rapidly. What should be done or is being done to ensure that skills and knowledge is moving in line ahead of the skills requirement? So in tandem with that, and we'll have a later discussion about the digital journey, about Mount Lucas and so on. And there was a reference to traineeships. Just explain to us what's happening in terms of tech training for the industry.
Within apprenticeships, there is embedded, digital skills, and as apprenticeship programs are being updated, they're including that. Again, it's back to that point about moving with the industry and with the requirements of the industry, and obviously a huge amount of technology now supporting the construction industry and sector, and apprenticeship programs and all training programs have to reflect that. So that's the challenge for the education and training system, to work with industry and incorporate that. And there's 5 big, I mentioned the reviews of the wet trades, there's 5 other big reviews going on at the moment, and that's the opportunity to build in those digital skills. There's also, just to mention, 3 tech apprenticeships that are available, like actually in the technology area, network development, software development as well, cybersecurity. They're all areas that every company, every 21st century company and business needs. So they're, and I know there are employers, so they're 2 years, so each of them are 2 years. And in cybersecurity, in response to the big crash on the HSE a year ago, there's now been an advanced, a level 8 degree level cybersecurity apprenticeship been developed. So there's a progression path. People can be brought in at entry level and can progress and become extremely adept and competent in terms of combating cybersecurity threats, which for every industry is a concern.
So in terms of upskilling your existing 3,000 people with Mercury, to have more tech skills, to look at the future trends that we're going to talk about later in the afternoon, what are you doing?
We've set up a training centre, a dedicated training centre to look at where the gaps are and bringing people in there. So we have a number of locations around the country where we bring people to give them the additional trainings that we feel we need to grow as a company.
Is that sort of on the job, or how do you do that?
Yeah.
Do they take time out of their 1 day a week, or what?
No, on the job. So with the apprentices, we bring them in at different, over the on the job training, the different, the 4 blocks. We've different laid out for them. They have to come in and complete. And at the end of their apprenticeship with Sulis, not only they get their cert, but they get ours as well. So they have to complete, so they can't skip it. If they skipped it, they won't get our equivalent cert.
John, upskilling?
Question that was mentioned earlier, there's 5 areas of excellence in Ireland now for the green agenda and trying to keep ahead of that and meet the climate change. And we would encourage every company in the industry to get involved and to upskill their existing staff in that whole green agenda area. And we think it's an absolute excellent way of upskilling people in relation to those areas, as someone said in that question, just trying to keep ahead. And that is actually how you keep ahead. A lot of people don't understand it, air to water heat pumps and all of the other kind of stuff that's going on. So we would encourage companies to get involved. 5 centres of excellence now around the country, which is fantastic. And people and companies should just use that. The facilities are there.
A question for you, Mary Liz. Sulis or the NAO, how do you intend to deal with the lack of lecturers, trainers, should the demand for apprenticeships be accelerated?
So last year, 2021, there was very additional investment put in to tackle, I think Joanne mentioned it, the delays caused by COVID, backlogs in training. We got approval to hire over 100 staff, of which 75 were instructors. Most of those have been filled. There's no doubt we're hearing from around the country, because we've got such a buoyant market. The Minister McGrath mentioned it, unemployment is so low, there's a huge amount of choice in the industry. However, there are a lot of people who also still believe that becoming an instructor or a lecturer in apprenticeship is a really useful and valuable and rewarding career and way of actually of contributing. So what I would say is that I would be hoping that as the system expands, that we actually get more industry people interested in opportunities in lecturing and giving back, maybe taking a year out, 2 years out, and actually going back in and actually doing some of this instructing and training. I think there's a pay scale there, but the posts are being filled. I don't actually think, I think probably the bigger challenge for us at the moment is getting more workshops. And again, this is something was talked about all day today, just the public procurement and getting approvals and so on. We've got 17.5 million additional investment in workshops going on. We need to get those over the line. And I think we will be fine about getting more instructors and lecturers in to work on this. But I do think that getting more expertise from industry would be fantastic.
Final thing I want to ask you two is, I remember speaking to Tom many years ago about there was such shortage of both skilled and unskilled workers that inward migration of workers was an issue. And I've done a bit of work with the Hotel Federation, and they said when COVID happened, 19,000 just left the industry. Now, they could be making beds or working in kitchen porters, but they didn't return. What is the experience? Because I never cease to be amazed when I get on the dart of the bus. I'm the only one speaking English these days. So the point about it, and it's fantastic that we have all these workers, and the tech industry has adopted. Do CIF have any plans, or individual companies, to actually get suitable workers which aren't youngsters, to migrate here? And I know there's problems with accommodation, but is that active at the moment?
Yes, it's actually happening. There's companies bringing in staff from all over the world and outside the EU. So we got the work permits relaxed in relation to critical skills. So there's people that we can bring into the industry where there's a critical skill requirement and bring them into Ireland from outside the EU. And that has all been fast-tracked.
Where are they coming from? Eastern Europe?
South Africa, Dubai, wherever, all over the world. And I know...
Even Offaly.
Even Offaly, yeah. No, we've actually taken on a couple ourselves, Quantities Affairs, and I'm sure there's plenty of other companies here in the room that have taken people. And the work permit system, there was quite a delay on that, but in fairness to the department, they've put a huge effort into it in the last few months. And the duration has been reduced to weeks, a matter of weeks now, as opposed to it was 16 weeks at one stage. It's down to maybe a week, actually, I think 7 days in some cases. And if they're not critical skill, it might take 2 to 3 weeks. So we would encourage companies to try and source staff from elsewhere. And there's actually an event down in Manchester in the next month or so, which we'll be attending, again, trying to bring people in from the UK, and one in Greece as well, I think, a month after that. So yeah, there's a lot going on in that space as well.
Joanne?
For us,
Overseas?
yeah, absolutely. We were in India there 2 weeks ago. We're going to the event in Manchester, so it's happening. Yeah, we've the highest number of nationalities we've ever had, over 50. So absolutely.
All right. Okay. Well, whether the figure is 25,000 or 50,000, they've both been referred to today. There is no doubt there are skills and people shortages in this industry to meet the National Development Plan and our other needs. I think we've had a fantastic panel. I want to particularly commend you, Derek, on the work you're doing, and certainly you're pushing an open door with CIF to grow this exponentially, and I think it'll give a real chance of a great life opportunity for these youngsters, and we'll watch that with progress. Please show your appreciation